What's up, friend? Welcome back to my channel. And today, we just gonna chat it up, and I'm kind of give y'all my little history on why I do what I do here, and also kind of give the rundown of what happens after you get diagnosed with breast cancer. Because let me make sure my mic's still on. Okay, it's on. But I just want to kind of give y'all the rundown of what happens after you get diagnosed with breast cancer because I've lived it. Okay, just what you can expect. Um, so back in 2020, yeah, the year of COVID, I was diagnosed. Um, I can remember I always do my breast exams by myself. Um, I do my own breast exams, and I was lying in bed, and that's usually when I do it, when I'm lying in bed or when I'm in the shower. And I recommend y'all do them every month during your cycle. That's how I would always remember during my cycle it's time to do my breast exam, my own self exam. So I did my self exam, and I felt the lump. It was right underneath like my left breast here, and I was like, what the heck is that? And I also have to say, if you notice like changes in your breast shape, because what I did notice just from looking at my body, and my breasts were very small. My breasts are very small. So I could really see any change. And I could see that it was kind of like right underneath my nipple. There was kind of like a dimple, and it was lifting up. It was really weird. But it looked like something was pulling, and that was because something was there underneath. So if you see like any changes or the shape of your breast changing or anything like that, that is also a sign. So be careful of that, and make sure you're doing your own self examinations, okay? Because that's how I found mine. A doctor didn't find it. So I felt it, and look, my mind, my mind started running, y'all. I was going insane. I called my boyfriend. Um, I told my mom, and my mom was like, "Don't worry, just go ahead." I hope I'm not messing it up because I'm very expressive with my hands. Um, But my mom, she was like, "Don't worry, my boyfriend's like, it's okay." And my boyfriend, he's just so passionate. He's so passionate and so positive. I just love him, and he calms me down like nobody. Nobody can calm me down the way he does. And he was like, "Oh, it's nothing." He always says that, "Oh, it's nothing. You're fine. Just, contact your doctor." Right. So I contacted my primary doctor, and he's just so raggedy. He was so raggedy. I got rid of him actually, but he did my exam or whatever, and he was like, "I'm going to refer you." I was referred to MD Anderson. Went to MD Anderson. My primary doctor, he felt it. I mean, the lump felt like this. It felt like it was about this big. I can't remember how big it was, but it felt like this, and it felt like if you were to put like a small pebble, like one of those flat, smooth pebbles you would find at a pond or something, and put it underneath like your pants and just play around with that. That's what it felt like. Um, and it was underneath here, and I was just like, oh, so he's feeling, and he was like, "I'm going to refer you to, an oncologist." And I went to MD Anderson, go to MD Anderson, and then I had to get a mammogram. Not Now those things hurt. Okay. My little breasts, they hurt, but they were able to get the pictures. We got the pictures. I had to wait. It's in the beginning, it's like a waiting game, seriously. And it drives you insane. It's like, wait. Like this, you telling me that I possibly have cancer and you making me wait? Child, you was going crazy waiting. But we did the mammogram. We did the mammogram. I had to wait to get the results. And they come back in and they're like, oh, we got to get a biopsy. Okay, so you get a biopsy. I'm scared, y'all. I was scared because they got this long behind needle, child, and it's thick. It's thick. But anyways, the doctor comes in, they rubbing me down, and I got to put my hand up, and they have to go. Um, they went two places to get to it. They saw something in a lymph node, and they also saw something in my breast. So I got stuck two places. Now the first place was in the breast, and that wasn't so bad. But then they had to get like in go through my arm. That hurt it. And hurt it isn't a word, but that's what we're gonna say today because I'm just country, y'all, and I don't feel like code switching. But they had to go through my armpit, and I was like, I could feel the pressure. Now they do numb it, so they stick needles in it and they numb the area, and it numbed pretty quickly. And this process of getting the biopsy did not take long at all, but it was so weird. They had one person um holding what is the thing, like when you're pregnant and they use the thing and they can see it on the monitor. What is that? A sonogram, like a sonogram like thing. One of the nurses was holding it so that the doctor was looking at the screen to see it, and then they just stuck the needle in there. And then it's like a little click, and I guess it's just taking a little piece of it, right? It's taking a little piece of it or breaking it. And when she went through my arm, my whole arm just kind of like jerked up. I don't know if it was like a natural reaction, but my whole arm just kind of like just like jerked. And she was like, "Wow, that's never happened before." I'm like, "Well, I don't know either." I don't know why it happened, but I felt something in my doggone underarm. And then so after that, it's another waiting game, and I had to wait about 3 days. I believe it was 3 days. And she called me, and that's when they confirmed that it was breast cancer. So I had to come back in. No, I'm freaking out. I called everybody that I loved and told them about it. So we had to go through this process together. Um, so, and y'all, this is, I don't typically talk about this. I'm not going to get into my emotions or, the things that I felt. Maybe I will in another video, but I don't feel like crying. I don't feel like crying right now. Maybe in another video, I could talk about that. But it's a traumatic experience for me. And I don't mean to say it to scare you or anything like that, because everybody handles things differently. Um, I hold stuff in, like my feelings in, because I was really concerned about like my sisters, because I'm like the one that has everything together, sister. Like that's how they see me. They actually like my middle sister. She calls me like, "Okay, mom," like I'm a second mom or something like that. And then my oldest sister, she's she has anxiety and she worries, and I'm like, I can't make her worry. I don't want to make my other sister worry. I don't want my boyfriend to be worrying. I don't want anybody to worry about me. I'm good. So I really had to wear a mask, and that kind of sent me into a depressive state after everything was said and done. And it's very emotional for me to talk about, but that's my experience. Not everybody is going to have that experience, but it is kind of traumatic for me. But so after they actually confirm, they send it to a lab, and they have to look at everything on a cellular level, and they're able to determine. So uh, you have to come back in. Like I had so many doctor's appointments, it was crazy. I had to come back in and meet with an oncologist, in which now this oncologist is pretty much just gonna go over what your options are, right? Or what they recommend or suggest. But I also had to speak to someone because, they ask you several questions. Um, and because I told them that I was the first in my family that I know of, um, and obviously, I hear that they say the same thing. Oh, you're so young, you have breast cancer, you're so young. And I was 34 at the time. So they're like, they wanted to test me for the BRCA1 or something like that. The same thing that Angelina Jolie had. So I had to do that. And I think they just took blood or something like that. And that came back negative. So that was good. Um, because if it came back positive, it'd be something in your genes, and the cancer could possibly come back and stuff like that. You just get both of your breasts removed or something like that. So that came back negative, which was good. And then they gave me options. I think it was about 2 centimeters. Because she did give me the option to do a lumpectomy. And a lumpectomy is just when they actually just take out the lump itself. But I grew up with low self esteem, and even though I had built my self esteem, I just did not. I didn't want to have to worry about my body looking so different, right? I didn't want to have to worry about my body looking so different. Oh, and let me also say, you're gonna have all of these scans done. They're gonna Once they find out the breast cancer there, they're gonna want to look at your whole body. So I also had to get these scans done, and then they found lumps in my right breast, and then they also found something in my rib. So I had to get biopsies done on those as well. Now, it was one when I had to get the biopsy done over here in my rib. It was kind of like the worst experience. And I'm not going to go into detail about that because, like I said, I don't feel like crying. I don't want to cry right now. I'm not in the mood to cry about this. But yeah, it was really bad. And because it was during COVID, see, I get emotional. Girl, don't do it. Don't you do it. Don't do it, girl. Don't do it. Don't do it, girl. Breathe, girl. Don't cry. But because it was during COVID, people weren't allowed to come with me, right? So I was back there by myself, and I was a hard stick, and having at one point I had 3 people try to withdraw blood from my arm. No one could get it, and they have to, each person tries at least twice before they have to get someone else. And then they had to finally call somebody, and they had to use a machine. This happened to me almost every time I went to the doctor. So it wasn't good for me at all. When it was come to like drawing blood or getting into a vein for like anesthesia or something like that, it was always hard. And that I just always knew, that's how it's going to start, because nobody could I don't have good veins like that. But getting those biopsies was really bad. It was bad for me, especially the one in my rib, because again, the lady, she really didn't give me the anesthesia, and we went into the room, and the doctor's like, "Why aren't you asleep yet?" And I'm like, "I don't know." It's like, "You should be asleep." And I'm like, "I don't know." And he saw that it was like in my tissue, so he had to take that out. And then he had to use a machine, and he drove a needle so deep in my arm. Child, thank you, Jesus. That's all I can say. The Lord is good. God is good. Okay, He's my friend. So I'm so happy I made it through. But so they gave me options, and so back to where I'm deciding what option I'm going to take. She did recommend, me having the full breast removed. And when you're doing this, you actually get an option to whether you want to keep your nipple or not. They call it a nipple sparing mastectomy. But then she also lets you know, they'll let you know that if, they find cancer or something like behind the nipple, um, they're not going to keep it, because if they do keep it, then it's a possibility that the cancer would still be there and it would grow again. So she did let me know that, but I did opt to keep my nipples, but I wasn't able to. And I let her know that if you can't keep one, then just take both, because I want it to look as normal as possible, because you know, I already had some self-esteem issues and I just wanted to look the same, right? I want it to look the same. Now, I am going to show some pictures. Hopefully, I don't get like flagged or anything, but if I have to like blur anything, I'll blur whatever I need to blur. But there's like no nipples, because I ended up having a bilateral mastectomy. I got both of my breasts removed and both of my nipples removed, and then I got some breast enhancers. And if you know that you're gonna get like breast implants at the end of this, then they'll put like these hard breast enhancers, and what that's going to do is just like keep your skin stretched out so that an implant will actually fit in there at the end, because it was like so flat, they took everything but except for those hard um breast little enhancer thingies. And I'm going to show you a video. You should be seeing it now, but it was like really hard. And then every week after that, I would have to go into the doctor and they would slowly inject saline into them. They were so hard, they were like two rocks. But it really stretched your skin, and you'll go in and get them filled every week until you get to the size that you want, or to the size that your skin, or the stretchability of your skin would allow. I'm like a C, a full C. I love it. Um, and so yeah, so that's what happened. And so now that you're getting them filled, my doctor did recommend that I do 16 rounds of chemotherapy. They're gonna want you to do some type of chemotherapy, because they just want you to get everything out, right? They want to make sure that nothing is there, nothing is there. But after I had the breast removed or everything, we had another scan. I had to get another scan, and on that scan, they were like, oh, cancer isn't anywhere, cancer isn't anywhere, we're good. And then they still recommended 16 weeks of a chemotherapy. And when I looked it up, they called that chemotherapy that they wanted me to take the Red Devil. I was like, initially, I was completely against chemotherapy because of the little information at that time that I had looked into it. And I was like, I don't want to do chemotherapy if there's, like no cancer in me right now. Like, why? Why do I need to do it? And I'm looking at my family and my loved ones, my boyfriend, and I just got the feeling like they wanted me to do everything right. Like they didn't want to lose me. So I decided to go through with the chemotherapy. And I was like, I'll just try it, but I really don't want to do this. Like inside, I was like, I'll just go ahead and do it. But inside, in the inside, I was like, I don't want to do this. So now it's time to go and get my first round of chemotherapy. And just know that you can't get your final breast implants until your chemotherapy and radiation is over. So you have to keep that in mind. And then they still want you to wait a couple months afterwards. So just keep that in mind. And so it's November 2020, and my surgery was on September the 3rd, and then my first round of chemotherapy was in November. So it all happens very quickly, and I'm sure I was in stage 1. I had invasive ductal carcinoma. But then when they actually did the mastectomy, she said that it was stage 2. Now, the first rounds of chemotherapy. First of all, honey, you got to make sure that your blood is ready, and I think that's why I had to wait a little bit because I had to get my blood count up because I was kind of anemic. I was always low iron, I was always cold. So I ended up having to have a blood transfusion. So you got to make sure that your blood count is there, otherwise, you can't get it. So I got a transfusion, did all of that, took another test. My blood was where it was supposed to be for chemotherapy. November, I take the first round. First of all, honey, and also let me tell you, I got a port put in. So I got a port put in, and it's this is the scar of where the port was, and they give you a port that way you it's like this little thing that's connected directly to this vein here, and that's because you'll be coming in like every week to get your infusions, and that just prevents them from having to go through your arm. So it's like they'll just hook the thing up here real quick and it gets in through that way. They didn't even use it, first of all. So why in the heck would I get it and y'all didn't use it? Like that annoyed the heck out of me because, like I said before, I'm a hard stick. So I'm like, come on. And after I had my mastectomy, I also had some lymph nodes removed. Now, when you have lymph nodes removed, you can't have any type of blood drawn or anything um done on that arm. They can only take it from this arm. So we got that, and honey, the PPE they have to wear, the protective gear they have to wear to